Begin Self-Publishing, episode 136, Making Tea Right Book Decision with Making Tsang.
Interested in self-publishing but don't know where to start? Want to get your book onto Amazon? Want to hold your paperback book in your hands? Learn how on the Begin Self-Publishing podcast with your host, Tim Lewis.
Making is an enormous personality. She's a tea expert and also a social media expert in the world of Twitter. She's currently in the process of launching a brand of tea-infused gin and a tea-infused brand of beer. And she's well known for her experience in social media and in the tea business over the years. But she suffers from the problem of having too many options to think of in terms of writing a book. And she's been struggling to make a decision as to which book to pick for her book project. So today we're going to take her through the choices of what book she wants to write and see maybe if we can get her to make a decision and come back on the show to actually commit to writing the book. Making is also known for her terrible tea puns, where she will just insert the word tea basically wherever the word the is in the sentence. Hence the rather strange title for this show. So now over to the interview. I don't think there's really any need for introductions, A, because I've probably just pasted on one in post-production before this. And also, I want to really just get down to the crux of our conversation today, which is that unlike my previous two sort of guinea pig guest mentees on this show, you're at a much earlier stage. You do want to write a book, but you're kind of still in the which book idea to think about stage, aren't you? So maybe we could start by just you describing what kind of ideas you're thinking about for this book that you are going to write in the near future.
Do you know, I have had so many ideas for so many books. And so Procrastination has stepped in. And I've had lots of ideas for, I would say, a good 6 or 7 years. And it changes with every person that I talk to, because as you know, when you're in business, we can often feel like the loneliest place on the planet. So you talk to people, you talk to other business owners and you ask for advice. And every person I meet is a business mentor to me because they always give me advice. So on the one hand, I've got people who say, you've got to write a tea book. You should write a tea book. So then I'm thinking, what kind of tea book should I write? I've done a lot of research on tea search on the kind of books that I should, perhaps write, because there are a lot of tea books out there, but nothing that really jumps out at me. And then there's another school of thought where a lot of people are thinking, well, you should really talk about your business journey and talk about the highs, the lows, and that kind of stuff. And then I had my own idea of being a rival to the Dummy's Guide, because I have never bought a Dummy's Guide 2 book because I always felt it was patronizing. But there is a need for education, there's a need for personal development and so on. So I thought, I wonder if I could have a series of books which are more positive in their title. So Making It Happen, for example. So then I procrastinated. Sorry, I keep giggling over my tea puns, laughing at my own tea puns. So I keep procrastinating which book I should write about first in my Making It Happen series. And consequently, I've got lots of Google Docs all over shop with all these titles, with all, and I've started a page in, 3 pages in, and then I've stopped because I don't know which one to finish off first.
Okay.
So that's me.
Well, so that's the quickest interview ever. Yeah, I think you're a lost cause. I think we'll all just go home. All right. No, of course not. So the Making It Happen series, you say you've got several titles in that you've kind of thought of. And then you've got the tea book and you've got whatever the other book was. It was clearly important enough for me to forget about it. So, it is a difficult. I've struggled with this. I've written 7 books now, My latest book was basically writing about a topic that I wanted to be known for, so social media networking, as a way to kind of get authority and to get like a foot in the door. So I can see why people would encourage you to write a book about tea, because that is your speciality area. You do stuff all related to tea and gin and beer and various other random tea-related items and live tweeting. So, I mean, there is something to be said. This is the woman who wrote the book about it, who wrote the book about tea. With the Making It Happen series, that could be successful. I think there is always a big demand for simple sort of Janet and John, like how to do stuff material. I'm not sure that I've bought and read a lot of the dummies books over the years, and I've never found them particularly sort of patronizing, mainly because they're not always written by the same person. They're just basically outsourced to, so they're just a collection of like headhunted books for people. Now, it may be that there is a class of people who don't like the idea of the dummies books and they want to read your other rival series. I mean, I don't know. You may want to look at trying to do some sort of research about whether this market that you think is there is actually there. I mean, in some ways, just writing a book, even if it doesn't sell, will be a good experience, because you then know the procedure, so that if you write a Making It Happen book about advising people how to make the perfect cup of tea or something, so you kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
That you would learn so much from that experience that then you could go and potentially write a book about your experiences. I think that was the other thing you were talking about, your business experiences. I mean, your business journey from an autobiographical point of view, I mean, your story is actually very interesting as well. So, but I've not written anything autobiographical yet, partly because I wanted to kind of get the ropes, learn the ropes about how to self-publish and how to write books before doing the whole emotional thing of trying to write something autobiographical. Because my own story is quite interesting to people, but I didn't want to.
Really is, yeah.
I didn't want to have to go through the emotional kind of ringer of doing that and learn to write and self-publish and do stuff at the same time. So, yeah, I would say if you were coming to me and you gave all that, I would go with a tea book to start with. But
right, there
is an argument for saying that, and this again comes back to something we were talking about in the pre-chat, which I probably should have recorded, but hey ho. If you're creating a tea book, are you thinking of just a textual book, or are you thinking of something with loads of, say, photographs or colour photographs and examples and that kind of thing? I mean, is it more like a cookbook for tea, or is it just basically a history of the tea that would just be like a textual book? I mean, what kind of thing would you be thinking about in the tea area?
Well, again, this is where procrastination set in because of exactly those questions. I could write a tea book, a tea cookbook right now. I've got 40 different recipes in my head, can use different types of tea to infuse with them or to cook with them, starters, mains, and desserts that I could absolutely start with. There are so many history books out there, but they're really dry. I want to draw on the fun aspects, the funny stories. I mean, we talked about the beer and the gin in the pre-chat earlier about, was it the 60s or 17th century that, Brits were just drinking beer and gin by the dozen because water wasn't sanitized. And it's just those kind of stories that I want to draw on rather than the dry, historical texts that are out there at the moment. So it really depends. But what's been brought to my attention recently is actually the second book that I talked about, and I've actually got a working title for it, because recently people were saying to me that it might be good to write a sort of autobiographical book because it combines the tea, it combines the business aspects of it, and it'll help people to understand me as a person a little bit more and my journey. And I think drawing on what you were saying about how perhaps you're not ready to write your own autobiographical book at the moment, I feel that I am ready now, I think. I wasn't ready a year ago, but now that I've come back to the UK, things have settled a lot more, and I've been here 2 years now. I think I might be ready to write that second book, which is from making mistakes to making it happen. So it's kind of like a precursor to the Making It Happen series, where I am going to be talking about, it's going to be a bit about tea. It'll be a bit about my business, how I got into business, and how I started my business in 3 different cities, that kind of thing. So it kind of encapsulates everything, I think. And I think that is sort of drawing my attention at the moment. I've even got the words from making mistakes to making it happen actually as my wallpaper on my phone. And my sister, who is my biggest cheerleader, she's always cheering from the sidelines with pom-poms with me. She wants to get involved in Canva a little bit more and experiment with it. So she set herself a goal to actually do me just a fun little book cover with those words, so that I can have it as my wallpaper. So rather than the words just jumping out at me, it'll be my whole, perhaps even my book cover. So I think I'm going to put the other book to one side and maybe concentrate on this one because I've got a working title for it.
So is this kind of like talking therapy where you already knew the answer, but you just needed to be able to talk through? Or is this more where you're going to go after this and you're going to think, oh, well, do I really want to talk about this now? Do I really? And I'm of the opinion that both might be correct. I don't know. I mean, it feels to me from the way you were describing that then that is the book that you want to write first and foremost above. I mean, would it be right in saying that, I'll try and say this and not sound macabre, but it's going to sound macabre. But if, like, it turned out that you had some sort of weird tea-related disease that meant you were going to drop dead in a year's time, would that be the book that you would want to have written out of those books? It sounds like that is the one that you want to get done before the great tea episode next year.
So to go back to your question of whether I'd already made a decision, I hadn't. So actually, through the conversation that we've been having, it just made me realise that when we were describing the books, that actually when you'd forgotten the second book that I was going to write, I was mortally offended. I thought, no, that's the one I actually, and I think I kind of made the decision there and then. But yes, I believe that book is the one I want to write. There is a tea-induced disease that you could perhaps
oh no, I've cursed you too.
No, so apparently you can actually get tea drunk.
Oh.
You'd have to drink 8 gallons of the stuff, but you can get tea drunk and get so giddy and be on a high, and that kind of stuff. So you can actually, I believe you can drink, so much water that you can sort of keel over. So tea's exactly the same, but you would die happy because you're actually tea drunk, because you're actually on a high. But anyway, that's another side. But yes, I feel...
That's interesting. Who knew you could die from drinking too much tea?
There you go. Yes, I don't plan on leaving this planet in a year's time, but I believe that the book will encapsulate all of my love, which is tea, which is education. So education about tea, education about business, how to start in business. Because I came from a corporate world and I fell into starting a business quite by accident. And then I had the opportunity to start my business 3 times, which has been amazing. And of course, in all of those 3 opportunities, I have made a lot of mistakes and I am still making mistakes. But what I have done is learned from some of those mistakes. And that's where it's got me to today. And now I'm more confident in, doing certain things in a particular way. But those opportunities wouldn't have happened if my personal life hadn't sort of taken me to those, different cities, London, Brisbane, and then back to Sheffield. So I think it will sort of combine all of those loves.
Okay. So that was That was a lot quicker getting to your book idea than I expected. So I was gonna let you off with actually setting a deadline for when this was going to be done. But as we've finished early, I'm like, maybe we should, because what I was going to do is like say, oh, well, maybe you should go away and we'll think, you come back and you talk about which idea you've selected.
Right.
But as you've already selected an idea in the show,
Well, you see, one of the mistakes that I am making a lot actually is not having deadlines. And of course, as you know, Tim, if you don't have a goal, you don't have deadlines, then you never get things done. And I think that's probably, well, I'm sure that is the reason why I procrastinated for so long in writing books. So I'm really scared now. Now you're forcing me to eat that green frog and set a deadline now, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have to. But on the other hand, it's like, and we have to be, rather than just picking, saying like, well, let's do it next week.
Which ain't going to happen.
Which ain't going to happen, no. Because you're in the process of releasing your tea-infused gin and beer and God knows what else you're doing, really. And you're doing your live tweeting.
Yes.
So I'm fully mindful that you're not going to really start doing anything for probably at least a month or two.
Mm.
I mean, are you kind of, this is a question I probably should ask the other two, but I'm kind of making this up as I go along. I'm sure when I do more of these, I'll have a nice little checklist of things to ask and make sure people. But are you, in terms of organisation, are you kind of somebody who has a massive calendar with little like red post-it notes that you move around? Or are you more like, oh, I'll do this in October? Or is it just basically your life is driven by your inbox? I mean, sort of organisation-wise, what sort of personality are you and how do you manage your business?
I am a very disorganised person because I'm a creative. I aspire to be an organised person. And I like hanging out with organised people, hoping that it will rub off on me. So I do have a lovely calendar, Google Calendar, and I've got different colours for different things, you know, that kind of thing. But whether I meet that deadline or not, I haven't quite got to that bit yet.
Well,
so
what I'm going to do is suggest the same thing I suggested to Jen. But for my discussions with Jen afterwards, she seemed to totally ignore my advice on this and actually started writing the book anyway. But that's a whole other issue. Is that, and to be fair, I didn't do this with my latest book, but that was the nature of, with my fiction books, the approach that I found fantastically useful was creating a plan for the book. So what that means in the simplest sense, and you can add this to, you can go ad infinitum to this, and certainly with fiction books you can. So what do I mean by a plan for a book? So it's almost like just having it could be a Word document. The software I use is Scrivener, which is quite good for organising these things. So just plan out like the chapters of your book and a couple of sentences about what that chapter or that section is going to be about.
Okay.
And that actually often has taken me longer than the writing book. So rather than saying like making is going to have a great making it happen rather than making mistakes book, I've already got the title wrong. But we're not going to set you a date, but we're going to set you a date for when the plan should be completed.
Okay. I like that idea. I do like that idea. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and that's a really good idea. I like that. Just having a plan, because I think, again, you know, with all the other book ideas I've had, I've sat down and thought, okay, what am I going to write about? And then I just sort of get to a standstill. I said, I'll just go and make a cup of tea.
I mean, I've still got on my computer low, because I used to try and write like science fiction and other things. And you sit down and you write a bit, and then you end up like, I've no idea where I'm going to go now. And that's when you give up. But I read this book when I was in my notice period for my job, actually, called Write, Publish, Repeat. And what they do is they say, create a plan, because a plan helps you has something you can go back to and say, so what was I going to talk about next? And I mean, you can, and also if you get kind of blocked in one section, you can switch to another section and write that bit while you're blocked in the other section. So what I try and do, and I say, because of the nature of my latest social media networking book, I didn't do this because it was mainly interview based. So there wasn't like planning what people are saying. It's basically transcribing what people have already said.
Yes.
And I did basically, I pantsed what they call seat of the pants right in the beginning and the end, which probably shows when you read the book. But for most books, it makes sense to have a plan, and that is literally can be a sentence for each chapter. The more you have, and I mean, for fiction books, you can add things like tracking which characters are in which section. I suppose if you're going to be looking for quotes for people for a non-fiction book, you can make a note in each section, like I need to approach Tim to talk about this or whatever, or this is something I want to check for that section of the book. Was it really a gin panic in the 17th century or the 18th century? Those kind of things can go in the plan so that you have an idea about what's so when you basically want to get to the point where you've got a plan, and then you can maybe book out a couple of days, or you've got a quietish week and you can spend the mornings and you just try and write the book as fast as possible.
Right.
And the reason why writing a book fast helps is that it keeps in your mind so you can remember what you wrote. If you're writing like 50 words a day, then you're going to have to spend all your time going back reading what you already wrote because you've forgotten what you wrote.
Okay. Gotcha.
So from my perspective, and this is different. I mean, somebody like Stephen King doesn't write plans and just like churns out 200 words a day or whatever. But a lot of the very successful writers write a plan and then they write the book as fast as possible to keep it all in their mind. And I think it makes better books. So let's get to the point and say, when do you think you could get a plan done by?
Blimey. Oh, you really are testing me now. Well, okay, let me ask you this. When do you think that you are going, how many guests are you going to be speaking with before you come back to me? That will. So is that going to be 2 months' time? Is it going to be a month's time? Is it going to be a week's time? I don't know.
I'm going to go to Jen and Ben. Makes them sound like some sort of 70s band, doesn't it? Jen and Ben.
Jen, Ben, and I'm Ken.
You're Ken, yeah. You're no longer making. You're now known as Ken. Oh, may Ken happen. Anyway, that's an aside. No, so there's at least 6 weeks, and I kind of promised somebody to do an interview. Though they haven't come back to me, but they're probably going to come back at the last minute about a totally unrelated topic, but self-published. Because I'm still every now and then going to do the odd interview with somebody unrelated to this kind of like grand make all my friends self-published books plan that I seem to be inadvertently running. So I think it's going to be at least 2 months. So
great. So we are in, what are we in at the moment? We are in late end of September, aren't we?
Yes.
So October, November. So towards the end of November. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Okay.
So shall we say, this is where I should get my phone out. This is where this is where the listeners are thinking, oh God, it's like, you should just give up listening to this. Because he's just mucking about on his phone in the shop. So the next show is going to be on the 3rd. So that will probably be, well, that might be, I don't know what that's going to be. Next one.
Well, end of November, you give me a date, tweet the date, make me accountable on Twitter with all of our SM besties, our social media besties, and that will really keep me on track, won't it? And then hopefully I'll have people cheering on the sidelines with pom-poms with me saying, how's your plan doing, May King? May Ken?
So, May King, forget about that because we need a definite date. We can't, because otherwise it will slip. Oh, I'll forget about it.
Okay.
So I'm just going to pick two months from today when we're recording this, which is the 22nd of November.
Right, 22nd of November. Okay, so that is 5 days after my birthday.
Oh, your birthday's on the
13th 13th of November, and I'm going to be the grand old age of 45.
Oh, you sprightly youngster. I passed 45 in February, so... You're always going to be younger than me.
Older brother.
You're always going to be younger than me. No, whatever happened. Okay, so the 22nd of November, you're going to post on Twitter a very possibly blurred picture, if you want to link to that, of your plan.
Right.
And for everybody who doesn't know, what is your Twitter handle?
At Making Tea. MAYKINGTEA. And yes, Making is my first name.
Yeah. We only ever make the mistake of calling you May once before. You see this dreadful stare. And somebody turning into the Incredible Hulk is start turning the green colour. And no, sorry, Making. So it's Making. Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting. Quite often I'll go into Twitter because obviously Twitter's my favourite platform, and then have a look at the trending conversations that are going at the moment, the trending hashtags. And there was one last week about how 2 celebrities and people have been pronouncing their names for wrong for so long, and they've just let it go. So is it Ariana Grande?
Yeah. So
people have been pronouncing her name Ariana Grande, and it's not right, apparently. But she's never corrected it. And then the other lady, oh gosh, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong now. Is it Christine Teigen? And her name is actually Teigen, I think. Something like that, anyway. And they've never corrected them. And I thought, and so I actually put out a tweet and I said, I'm afraid I can't let it go. I would correct people. And I think, well, the only reason why, well, there's a couple of reasons why I correct people. It's actually, well, no, 3 things actually. It's a personal achievement of mine. Because I've grown up not being noticed, I am supposed to be, you know, I'm a girl, so I don't count in Chinese culture. I'm not supposed to say anything. I'm not supposed to cause confrontation, you know, smile and all the rest of it. It's a personal achievement of mine when I interrupt people and say, actually, my name is May King. So it's personal development for me. That's the one reason. The second reason is my dad wanted to call me Mei Ling, but my mum says, no, that's a really common name. Why don't we call her May King instead? And so it's a really unique name. And it's just I like the fact that my mum gave me a unique name, because also Chinese names tend to be hyphenated, and they deliberately didn't hyphenate it either to make me truly unique. So I love that. I love saying that my name is May King because my mum saw something in me and she made me unique. And I think it's, you know, it's just beautiful. And then thirdly, the reason why I insist on being called May King is because of my business name, Making Tea. If I permitted people to call me May, then the Making Tea doesn't really make sense. So that's really the reason why I correct people. And also as well, if people do call my name, say my name wrong the second time, I get to crack my joke where I say, I'm going to have to threaten to slap you with a wet tea leaf if you get my name wrong again.
How many times have you slapped somebody with a wet tea leaf? No?
Never. I'm a hugger, not a fighter.
Okay. Anyway, we've managed to pass the half-hour mark talking about tea and your book, and I'm glad that you have seemingly crystallised on a book idea now. I think you just needed a little spark of somebody saying, pick one. And then you were like, this is the one I want. This is the one I really want. And
thank you for that, Tim. I really appreciate it. It's been great. It's been a great chat. Thank you for having me on your show. And I look forward to talking to you again when I've got my plan all sorted out.
Yeah, and then we'll have to talk about the hard fact of actually writing the book and a deadline for when the book itself will be out. So thank you so much for being on the show today, May King.
No, thank you, Tim.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please stop by iTunes and rate and leave a review. This helps make the show more visible. For free resources, show notes, and other helpful content, join the community at beginselfpublishing.com.